we want to welcome our first guest. She's no stranger to publishing. Her name is Tiffany Warren, and most of you out there probably heard of her or her work. And she not only is an author, but she does all sorts of other things in the film industry. We're going to talk about a little bit about that too. But she's on tonight because she has a brand new book that just came out. And so we welcome Tiffany Warren back. I think you've been on once before, a
I
while back.
have.
So we welcome you back to Black Authors Matter TV.
Hey, Gwen.
Hey, how you doing? And Tiffany was a featured author at the book festival one year, but it was before COVID. I don't remember what year it was, but
Yeah, it's been a couple of years, yeah.
it's been a few years. So she's been to Houston to meet the people here. So, Tiffany, show us a copy of your new book. It's a beautiful cover, by the way. The
The
Unexpected
unexpected diva.
Diva. It's
Mhm.
very, very lovely presentation. And it just came out last week. So,
Yep, it came
con-
out on the 7th,
okay.
and it's been a whirlwind week. It's been kind of crazy. Like, I fly out to Dallas tomorrow morning at 4 a.m. I was just texting the young lady that's going to be the MC of our event in Dallas tomorrow. I have not packed one thing. I leave at
You sleep on the
4 a.m.
plane. You can, that's a what, 2, 3 hour flight? Maybe you can get a little
Yeah, yep,
sleep.
about a three and a
Mhm.
half hour flight. Yep.
Okay, so you can get some sleep then. Because when you
Mhm.
have those 4 a.m. flights, I hate them because, well, when they're really, or even 6 a.m., because you have to get up so early to get to the airport early enough, and you really don't get a good night's sleep because you can't just, unless you're one of those people that goes to bed at 8 o'clock. Um,
No.
which is not me. I'm a night person. So what happens for me, I can't sleep until midnight.
Yeah.
And so then I have to get up at 3 a.m. to get to a 4 a.m. Uber. It's really, and so I'm exhausted by the time I get where I'm going. And hopefully I can get some rest when I get there. But it doesn't sound like you're going to get rest.
No.
Mm.
None.
So what are you coming to Texas for? What is the event?
So, I'm going to be at the Cedar Hill Traffic Hickman Public Library. We are doing a night at the opera, which is the launch party for the Unexpected Diva. And it's not really, that's the theme. It's an opera theme. We're not really having an opera.
Okay.
But I will be in conversation with Michelle Stimson about the unexpected diva, and
Okay.
you guys know Michelle.
Oh yeah, she's been
Yes,
on
you
the and
love
I
Michelle.
she's been on the show 2 times, I think, but I've
Mhm.
known her for years.
Yes,
I've known her for
yes, I've known Mich- I've
since her
known her since
first
the
book.
beginning
Yes,
of
since
my
her first
career.
book.
Right,
Mm-hmm.
we came out right about the same
Right.
time.
Yeah,
Her
you did.
book, what was her
Boaz
Boaz Brown?
Brown.
Yep. Yeah, we both came out with Walkworthy Press. So it's kind of good that she's doing this event with me. I'm in conversation with her because this kind of I posted on Facebook right before the book drop that this has echoes to my first book drop, just because of how it feels. It feels like new all over again. It's the feels like the first time, just because I'm going into a new genre, if a new space, bringing readers something different. For me, no one is expecting historical fiction from me, and I really, really enjoyed bringing this story about Elizabeth Taylor Greenfield, the first Black prima donna, the first Black opera singer. She had a three-octave voice, and I couldn't believe that I had never heard of her. I've been calling her the Beyonce of the antebellum because she toured the United States before the Civil War. People were
Oh.
still on plantations. She actually was born on one in Mississippi. And I was like, the tenacity of her to do this during a time where it was not even safe for Black people to travel without freedom papers on them. And even if they did, they could have been kidnapped. But she toured all over the Free States and the UK with that three-octave voice. She had a soprano that could shatter glass. And she was amazing. They compared her contemporary at the time was Jenny Lind, who they called the Swedish Nightingale. And that's where her nickname, the Black Swan, came from. So I'm really excited to share her story with readers. And the reception that I'm getting so far is really been overwhelming. The support from readers and my author friends, it's just been overwhelming. And I just really appreciate everybody just supporting this release.
Well, you really explained a lot of the background of this person who I never heard of either. And most of us think about Marian Anderson when we think about opera with, black women in opera and who sort of launched it, one, groundbreaking.
Hmm.
Um, but a couple of things. One, Walkworthy Press launched a lot of authors' careers because
Absolutely.
when it started, it was the same time we had our bookstore,
Yes.
and Michelle came to one of our events. You may have been with her. I don't.
I came to Kush City. I don't think I was there with Michelle, but
Okay.
I was at Kush City. I think I was there with Angela Benson. Um,
Oh, okay.
who else was I
Okay.
there with? Was Latanya Mason, maybe? There was a whole slew of us there. But
Okay.
I
Because we
was at
used.
the brick
Okay.
and mortar Kush
Okay.
City back in the
We
day.
used we used to do book brunches,
Hmm.
and we would have multiple authors come in.
Yeah.
And so that was, and Walkworthy Press had a lot of authors during that time. It was like everything kind of happened at the same time.
Yep.
And
Yeah.
they were around for a few years, maybe 5 years, something like
Yeah.
that.
Hmm.
So, but they launched a lot of people's careers, a
Absolutely.
lot of writers' careers. And also the historical fiction genre with Black women as writers and Black women as the featured characters.
Yes.
Um, it has really taken off in the last 3 years. A lot of authors who never wrote historical fiction are finding opportunities in that space, like Victoria Christopher Murray,
Absolutely.
Rashonda
Mhm.
Tate. She's just going by Tate now. But there are many, and I've read a lot of them, a lot of the books. Trisha Thomas was on the show a couple of weeks ago with her new book. And that's actually my favorite genre is historical fiction. So I'm having lots of fun. I mean, I could name them. I could rattle off a lot of names. Angela Jackson Brown. It's just so many people writing in this space
Hmm.
that did not launch their careers as historical fiction writers.
Yes.
Um, Beverly Jenkins has been around forever doing it,
Absolutely.
but I'm glad to see people are bringing individuals to light
Yes.
who we would not know
Mhm.
otherwise. And for the most part, they haven't all been female, but a lot of the people they're bringing to light are females.
Yes. And I'm happy to be able to do that. These hidden figures, they shouldn't be hidden. These women who have these great triumphant stories of, we say Black girl magic, but we have been doing this for so long and finding ways to be joyful no matter what, you know, throughout our history, even during times of oppression, even during times when you might think that there is nothing to be joyous about, we have found spaces to have joy and have things that we can celebrate and have triumph with. And so I am just excited to be able to weave these stories of joy throughout our history, and it's just I love even the stories that don't start on the shores of the United States. Like Vanessa Riley, some of her stories are
Mm-hmm.
in the Caribbean, and I love all of the stories of the women across the diaspora, Black women, all of these stories that we can pull from our ancestors they all feed us, and I love to read them. It's just there's a wealth of literature right now for us.
That,
And
yes,
when I was growing up, you know, we've always had good literary fiction. For me, I mean, I'm only 50. I say only, like I'm still a baby. But when I was growing up, I always had like, the literary greats. I had the greats from the Harlem Renaissance to read. But I love now that there seems to be a resurgence that we're going back and pulling stories. And now I'm like, my granddaughter is going to have these stories to read. And I'm so happy to be able to contribute to that, to leave a legacy behind as well.
that's true. And there are lots of stories that have never been told,
Mhm.
and people are hearing about them for the first time and hearing the details about them for the first time.
Yes.
Um, yeah, Hidden Figures was another one. There's been a lot in the last, especially the last 5 years. I know Hidden
Yes.
Figures was a little bit before that,
Hmm.
but there's been a lot, and there's going to be a lot. I'm I'm hearing about releases for the future for later this year for 2026. So I'm looking forward to reading more and more things. Now, you also have a film career,
I do.
and how did you get into that?
So, I've always wanted to do book to film adaptations. I started out doing book to stage adaptations. I did an adaptation of my first book, What a Sister Should Do. I did that on stage in Cleveland, and then I did it in Dallas. And that was so fun. And I've always had a dream of bringing some of my books to the big screen or to the little screen, streaming or TV. And the opportunity arose. I actually went to the American Black Film Festival in Miami one year, and a friend of mine was working at BET. She ended up introducing me to her boss. And at the time, I was not ready. I didn't have a clue of what I wanted to do. I didn't have a treatment, which is like a short synopsis of your book. I didn't have anything ready. And her boss was like, "Oh, what you got for me?" I was like, crickets. I didn't even know what to say. And so I went home and I got ready. I said, because I'm not going to miss another opportunity when it presents itself. And I started to study the craft. How do I adapt books to uh screenplay? Because it's so funny that I wasn't ready, because when I had been doing faith and fiction retreat, I had set an intention to get ready. As soon as Rashonda had done Let the Church Say Amen, I said, I'm going to get ready. And I would bring in Booker Madison to teach us screenwriting 101. Like, because his thought was, if you wrote a book, you should be the one to write the first draft of your screenplay. So he was teaching us how just the basics on screenwriting. But still, I wasn't ready. When that opportunity first presented itself, I still wasn't ready. And so I started teaching myself the craft and how to get ready to present my books um, the next time the opportunity presented itself. And so I reached out to my friend. I say, hey, I'm ready. Here's my query letter. Send me over to the people now. I'm ready to go. And at the time, they were just adapting Carl Weber's books. I think Family Business. They had done a couple of successful films and they were starting to adapt Family Business. And so the
Okay.
same team that was adapting Family Business, my friend was like, I'm going to introduce you to them and they will, see what you have. And so we had a conversation. It was luckily right during COVID. So things started to slow down during COVID. Everybody was at home. They were doing these Zoom meetings. And so they had time to talk to me. And we had a
Okay.
conversation just like we're having right now, about, my books. And they were like, okay, so we want, BET is not really known for like faith based. So we kind of want, it needs to be a little messy, kind of, we want faith based, but we don't want it to be too sweet. And I was like, oh, I got you. I got you. So I sent them, what we had been calling Christian friction for a long time. I sent them,
Oh, Christian friction.
I sent
That's good.
them,
I hadn't heard that one.
yes, I sent them some messy, Favorite Son is probably one of my messiest faith-based novels. And that was the first one that we adapted, and that was actually a fun process. That's my favorite one out of the three that are on BET, just because I feel like I was most hands-on with that one. And that one starred Jonathan McReynolds and Rotimi as the brothers, and E. Roger Mitchell as the father, the megachurch pastor father who was a hot mess. And it was just a fun process. Robin Givens was the director, and just the music. Uh, my favorite thing was seeing at the end of the day, each day, because I wasn't there for the majority of the filming. I got there for the very tail end of it, but at the very beginning, I actually got COVID, so I couldn't go. But at the tail end, I got the last few days I was there. But every day they would send me pieces of what they had filmed during the day. And there is a little snippet of a worship song in the book that I had put in the script. And I didn't expect for them to actually use it. It was a placeholder for whatever worship song they were going to write and stick in that scene. Well, Jonathan McReynolds on the set was like, I'm just going to use this and I'm going to, freestyle and turn it into a song. And so when I got the dailies that day, he had taken my lyrics and turned it into just a little short. It's very short. It's like 15 seconds. And it's, if you watch the movie Favorite Son, it's a duet between him and Kiki Wyatt, and when God is in the midst of two or three. I, I will watch the movie. I will fast forward to that part just to watch that, because it's just a little encouraging piece for me, because it's just a little bit of art that I know that's special to me. And so that is the film journey for me, is so intimate when it's a book to film thing and the author gets to see their art on screen. It is very, it's very intimate. And there's not like, it's not a super, sometimes you don't even get that piece of it. Sometimes you just say, oh yeah, here's, I'm signing over the rights to my book, especially if it's a big to-do deal, like with the Netflix or one that's really big. You don't even get to have any part of it. You just get to see the movie at the end of it. But the way that deal kind of played out, I really got to be a part of it. So I really feel happy about that particular film.
That's great. Um, what are the other two that films
Oh,
that
Favorite
were
Son
adapted?
Christmas, which is the sequel to Favorite Son,
Okay.
which ended up with a whole new cast, and you can blame COVID for that. the brothers are the brothers are different, but it still turned out great. And The Sound of Christmas, which is a an adaptation of The Replacement Wife, which also was very special to me because I got to work with my brother Booker T. Madison on that. He adapted that one and directed it. So that one was a lot of fun too, because we worked together on that one from the very beginning. We didn't even know if it was going to have a home. We didn't know who was going to produce it, what network it was going to be on. And Booker and I prayed together on that, the whole process of that from the very beginning. So that one is also special to me. Jonathan, Jonathan McReynolds wrote a song for it. It's just,
Oh,
there was so much, all of the movies like had a lot. It's been a great journey for me. Everybody doesn't get to be a part of the process, but I really got to be hands on for my films. So at least these first three. Now, if someone wants to write me uh $11 billion check, they can do that. And I you will just show up at the premiere and say thank you. That's fine too. But these have been, it's just been an amazing, amazing journey.
And you posted some of the filming, photos.
Oh yeah.
Sometimes when you're
Mhm.
doing your work with that, you post it, and I've been able to kind of follow. That's one good thing about social media.
Yep.
If you can keep some of the crap out of your news feed,
Right.
I mean, oh my God, like for some reason, like today, I was like, why does this keep coming up on my news? people who, these BBLs. I think maybe I looked at one, and now like every fourth thing is a
When what you looking at BBLs for? What you trying to tell us?
picture. I think it was the one where Usher was giving the woman a cherry, and she had a humongous. And then and now I'm like, please stop, please stop. I don't know.
Oh my goodness.
But anyway, I love seeing people's work uh, when they're talking about the phase they're going through.
Yeah.
This is what happened today in the different stages and things
Mhm.
like that. I know it's almost like you feel like you're a part of whatever they're doing.
Yeah.
You're able
I
to.
I enjoy that too. The behind the scenes parts are, yeah, that's really fun.
Yes. I'm trying to look at some of the comments to see if we had any questions, just to make sure if we had any that I could answer them before the end, because we only have like 5 minutes left. So yeah, it goes by fast. So the
It does.
Unexpected Diva, your new book that you, what made you pick? What made you first of all decide? Okay, I'm going to take a deep dive into historical fiction, and then what made you pick this particular subject?
What made me pick Elizabeth Taylor Greenfield is that I had already done all this research on opera because I had written a book called A Multitude of Sins about a woman who was passing as white to sing in the Theatre de New Orleans. And but it's completely fiction. And then I found Elizabeth Taylor Greenfield when I was researching my next historical fiction about Yolande Du Bois. And her father, W.E.B. Du Bois, had a record company called Black Swan Records. And I was like, okay, it was named after the Black Swan. I was like, well, who was the Black Swan? It was Elizabeth Taylor Greenfield.
Oh,
And
okay.
I was like, wait a minute, I stopped the press. I had never heard of her. Well, I knew all of this stuff about opera singing already. Like I already had a lot of research on that, and I told my agent, I said, okay, so let's not submit the book Multitude of Sins because I would like to write about this real opera singer. So we scrapped that book completely. I mean, that book is done, and maybe I'll revisit it one day. It's a completely different story, but I wanted to write about a real person. And so I started doing research on Elizabeth Taylor Greenfield. I wanted to learn about her life, and that's the reason why I did it, because I found this person that I had never heard about. I'm obsessed with opera. I went to see Phantom of the Opera when I was 18 years old, and I've been listening to opera ever since. And so I love opera music. There's a novel that I read. I was about 14 years old. It's an Anne Rice novel called Cry to Heaven, about the famous castrati opera singers, who young boys who were castrated before puberty so that they could sing those high soprano notes, because they didn't allow women to sing opera. And so I've been just since I was a kid. Now, I can't sing a note, but I've been obsessed with it. So that's why I wanted to write about Elizabeth Taylor Greenfield. And so the research started to come together. There was not a lot of information about her life, her personal life. So the fiction of the book is like her romances, her what she did in her to day life, what her family life looked like. All of that part in the book is fiction. What is not fiction is her tours, her shows. All of that is documented. There is a great deal of information available about her in the UK press. They followed her around like the paparazzi. As soon as she hit the ground in Liverpool, they followed her around like just like how the British press is now. They were the same way in 1854. They followed her around. Like I found more
Mhm.
information on her in British newspapers than I did in American
Right.
newspapers.
Mhm. So, there's probably no recordings of her voice, are
There
there?
are no surviving
Because the
recordings of her voice.
technology
Yep.
wasn't there yet.
Yep.
I don't know when they I know they had the Victrola and that was like in the early 1900s, I'm
Right.
thinking.
Yep. There are
So,
no surviving. All I have are descriptions of her voice from
okay.
the reviews. But yeah, there are no recordings. And I know the songs that she sung from her um the pamphlets or and the programs from her concerts. So I listened to every song that was listed in every program. I listened to other vocalists sing it. But I have never got to hear her voice, but I could only imagine it in my mind.
Right. And the songs give you an idea of her
Mhm.
range. You know, so I'm a soprano. I'm not an opera soprano, but my notes go pretty
I'm a
far.
choir tenor, a choir
A
tenor,
choir tenor. Okay.
choir
Okay. So you sing with,
surrounded
you
by
sing
other
with,
tenors.
okay. We have quite a few female tenors in our choir.
Hmm.
So probably half, it's probably half. Half of our tenor section is female. So and that's fairly new to choirs, I think. I grew up a PK and I sang in the choir when I was a teenager and we didn't women weren't tenors, females weren't tenors.
I think it's because the choir directors now they want the tenors to be able to hit some of those high, the tenors hit some higher notes. And the
Uh-huh.
male tenors cannot do it. They can't
Okay.
they can't do it at all. So,
Okay. That could very well be. I need to ask
mhm.
my choir director. Well, Tiffany, we're at the end of our time. Can you
Yes.
show your book cover one more time? The Unexpected Diva. It is a beautiful cover, and it is on my shopping cart for my next order of books. So I look forward to digging into it and finding all about Miss Greenfield.
Thank you
So,
so much for always supporting Gwen. We appreciate you. Thank you so much.
well, you're welcome, and safe travels to Dallas. It's cold. It's cold in Dallas right
No,
now.
it's not cold in that. It's cold here. In Maryland, it's cold.
Yeah, but I'm think they had some snow in Dallas last week.
Well, it's warm back up. Thank goodness
Oh, okay.
it's a little
Okay.
bit warmer.
Okay. Okay. All right. Well, take care and
Thank
have
you.
safe travels and I'm sure your book will do well.
Thank you so much. Bye.
Okay, good night.